Okay.
All righty.
It's 5:32. I'm calling this meeting to order.
Okay, I'll go ahead and read the special announcement.
Okay, thank you.
So the special announcement regarding public comment. Please wait for the commission chair to ask for speakers at each item. When it is time, please use the raise your hand function online to request to speak. If you're attending by telephone, press *9. You'll be unmuted online, or your area code and last 2 digits of your phone number will be called when it's time for you to speak. Please be aware that Personnel Commission Rule 2.9A states that employees, employee organizations, and other interested parties will be provided reasonable opportunity to present their views orally. Your comments should not exceed 3 minutes. Please begin by stating your name, and then we can move on.
Okay. Could I have roll call, please?
Chair Lane,
Here.
Commissioner Hodges,
Here.
I'm sorry, Vice Chair Hodges,
That's okay.
and Commissioner Peixoto.
Here.
Okay. Could I have a motion that we approve the agenda of tonight's meeting?
I move to approve the agenda for the meeting of June 17th, 2020.
Thank you. Second?
I second that.
Okay, is there any discussion?
No.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed, none. Comments from members of the Personnel Commission? Andy?
I have nothing to say, actually. I just hope everybody's doing well.
Okay, thank you. Pat?
Well, I just want to start out by saying, first of all, in my years with Hayward Unified as a student, a parent, member of the personnel or classified and teacher and personnel commission, I have to say these are unprecedented times, and I just really want to thank everybody. I think everybody in Hayward Unified has just done a fantastic job in adapting to these special times. And then also, I just want to also say that I am not going to seek reappointment in September. Been thinking about it for a couple of months now, and I just think it's time to move on. And I am saying it now because I know we have a hard time recruiting, so the word can get out and get somebody sooner rather than later.
Well, as we know, the best way to recruit is word of mouth. So, ladies.
Yeah. So anyway.
Well, I'm sorry, but I understand it's probably been years and you're involved in a lot of things.
It's been 9 years, and
Yeah.
I think it's time to move on and get somebody else, fresher blood, or somebody else in the sit down and take the spot. But I mean, I'll stay on until you find somebody. But
Well, that could be another year, so that's okay.
I don't mind being a
Good.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're definitely giving us a reason to hold back on the recruitment.
Yeah, let's not move too fast on this. So I still haven't got my letter yet, so but he's been a little busy in Sacramento, so
yeah, I think so.
I thought they emailed a copy. It wasn't signed though.
okay. Yeah, I haven't got anything, so
Okay, yeah, they emailed me like a temporary copy of
Okay,
it, just to make
okay.
sure that we had something on file to show that you had been reappointed. But
okay.
it's official.
Yeah.
You just haven't signed it.
Yeah. Well, that news kind of came as a surprise. So.
Well, I couldn't say anything, so I told Fernando, but
Yeah, Diane, we don't expect you to top that. We don't expect you to top that, Diane.
Well, what can I say? Pat's been a wonderful mentor and friend, and I will be sorry to see you not on the commission anymore, but I certainly can understand. So,
I've got 7 grandbabies now.
yeah, that's a full-time job. Yeah. Well, I wish you well, And we'll,
Well, I mean, we'll still be
Yeah.
in contact.
we'll keep in touch. Yeah.
Probably more so now.
There's one thing, Sunday I saw in the obituaries in the paper that Mary Glenn had passed away, and she's a former personnel commissioner,
Mhm.
and she was from December 1st, 1989 to December 1st, 2001. So I'd like to close tonight's meeting in her honor,
Yeah.
if that's okay with everybody. She was a nice lady.
Also, I saw that Larry Lepore's mom,
Yeah.
Peggy Lepore, passed away.
Oh,
also.
she did? Oh,
Yeah, in Massachusetts.
yeah.
She was 95.
Wow.
Oh, I didn't see that. Oh, that's too
I
bad.
think that was in the end of May, sometime in May.
Oh,
she
was it?
passed away. But yeah. So.
Okay, yeah, too many people.
Yeah.
I just wishing all of cabinet and everybody the best in dealing with all of this. I'm sure every day is a struggle. New things come down all the time. So I know everybody will get it worked out, and it'll be the best that you can possibly make it under the circumstances that we have. They're not ideal, but I know you'll all make it work. I was kind of sorry to see that the school resource officers for the police department will not be funded. I think they did a lot of good community work, but I know when it comes to cutting, I mean, we'll still have the police department and we can still call them when needed, but I think they made a big difference, at least on the high school levels, and I'm sure on the middle schools too.
Well, the
So-
message said that they're not going to renew the SRO program until further conversations with the community. So it's not 100% sure that it won't be funded. Maybe Fernando has more information on that.
I know there was a lot of comments when they posted the announcement today. A lot of people were saying that how they supported them continuing. Of course, it's not everybody, but
Mm-hmm.
you know,
I'll comment when I have mine. I can give a little insight into that.
okay. All right, so that concludes my comments. So no one from the union leadership,
No, I don't have anyone.
okay. District administration,
Nobody.
no, okay.
No.
Oh, I know, I'll go back to my comments just a second. The new person in charge of the facilities and transportation that was just hired, is it Miguel?
Yes.
I'd kind of like to meet him, if maybe he could show up at a meeting just briefly or something.
Mhm.
Just so we have a face to put to that position, so. Okay. Okay.
Yes.
No district administration in attendance. Reports from executive director. Fernando?
I think first I just want to start off by acknowledging just kind of what our country and our local communities and our government, what we're going through just as a nation, just kind of with, the protests, just the state of where we are as a nation. And I think that ties into, Diane, your comment with regards to the district wants to put a pause on the SRO, so it's not an automatic. I'm with you of the notion that they, having worked as a high school administrator, having worked as a elementary principal for 11 years, there is a special relationship that we have with our SROs, and I think that right now the state of affairs is such that. I don't want to say it's such a politically charged environment right now, but I think we want to ensure that we're engaged in conversations and that we go through that process because without our SROs, I mean, they're specially trained. They work with kids, they work with students. The bulk of the work that they do is really in a supportive model. It's not in, it's not the same as when we call a police officer from home. So I think that it's really a piece by by the Board of Education, the superintendent, that they just really want to just acknowledge what's going on, have a conversation, and to make a determination from there. So I'm with you on that whole notion of they really are a needed component, a necessary component. And it's kind of interesting because you have a flip side that would say, well, that's where you're locked in. You can't think of reform because you can't think of another way of doing things. And I just see them as partners in the work that we do. So hopefully that will come through in the dialogue and in the conversation, because I know that our sites, appreciate their support. And I would tell you this: I would rather call an SRO to come to my school site and work with me and students than to call not to take away from them, a regular beat officer who might not have had the training and gone through the what it's like to work with adolescents and school-aged children. So that's just kind of a piece on there, and so again, hopefully there will be some engaging dialogue, and we'll be able to move forward and kind of make a determination as to what it's going to look like. I think also too, secondly with that, I just want to add just kind of that's kind of our current state. I mean, we have several current states that are high need. We have been working with the District Advisory Committee on the reopening of schools. So we did have a document that was released by the state superintendent of instruction. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to, I just put the link in the chat so that it's there if people want to, open it or whatever. But what it is it's really a guiding document for the reopening of schools. At the end, they're all suggestions. What our opening of schools is really tied to our work in partnership with the County of Alameda's Public Health and Safety Department, Public Health Department. But I just kind of want to share that we have commenced that work, because while we have just closed our schools, we're in the process now of saying, okay, July's coming up. Year-round schools are going to start in a month, less than a month. What is the plan? So we're working towards what that looks like. And right now it looks like we're going to open with a distance learning model, but really ensuring that we take this time to really further develop that. So yeah, so Christy just put it up, Stronger Together, a guidebook for the safe reopening of California public schools. There's some different models that are in there that they talk about: A/B schedule, hybrid models, staggered schedules. A lot of work. I'm really impressed. A lot of work went into this document, and if anything, it has also provided us with a further framework as to how we want to approach our own opening of schools. So I put that out there just so that we're working at it. We don't have all the answers, but hopefully through our partnership with our labor partners and with our community and with our staff, we're going to make this as successful as possible for our students and for our employees. So that kind of concludes my comments, and I think that's it.
When did this come out?
That came out, I think it came out the day before our DAC meeting. I want to say it was like June 10th, maybe. I have to look at when our DAC meeting was. Let me go back into my.
I just wanted to.
Yeah, it's like hot off the press. I think it came out. It came out on Wednesday, I think June 10th, because then we had our DAC meeting on the 11th, and we had already been starting the conversation where we had been getting information from our students, our parents, and I know that our labor partners were surveying their own their constituencies, so that we didn't kind of mix those things up, just so that we can get some feedback. So it's pretty interesting. It's a very comprehensive approach. Again, their recommendations, with the expectation be that each district is going to tailor it to their specific needs and their own conditions and situations. But again, just as a reminder, just so that folks know, we're also really following closely with the guidelines set forth by the Alameda County Department of Health, because just like a perfect example, they're the ones who drive what opening looks like, not just for schools, but also for any of our businesses. I think you can go into Contra Costa County next week and you can go to a restaurant you still can't do that in Alameda County. You're like, we're not there yet based on our numbers. So it's just really this metric we're looking at as we move forward. And we use this guiding document, and then, but we also look at what the local Department of Health is telling us as well.
Fernando, are you going to send this to us?
I can send this to you in a separate,
Yeah,
we can get
if
that.
you
Chrissy
don't
can send that
mind.
to you.
Yeah, that would be
Absolutely.
great.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
it's
I'll send it.
pretty cool. That's why I was like, let me just share this, because this is some of the work that we've been doing. And I think this goes with hand in hand with, we're trying to use all the latest information that we have, because this is a very, very fluid situation, so yeah, we'll get that sent out.
Yeah, I
So
would
he's
appreciate it.
been making a lot of reports online. Are these the things that he's been going over? I haven't watched him, but it sounds like it
Are
might be.
you- When you say he, you're referring
I'm
to
sorry, the superintendent,
Tony
the
Thurman.
state
Uh,
superintendent.
the stage. Yes, his webinars, they have different, yes, this is really the focus. Has been, I think, a lot of work. And that's why I say you can tell a lot of thought process went into this document, because it's kind of has a lot, it doesn't have the answers to everything, but it definitely gives you the points to think about as we start going from the envisioning stage to the planning stages to the actual opening of schools, and what that looks like.
I don't think anybody has the answers yet. It's going to be a trial and error, I think.
Yeah. Yes.
Unfortunately.
I
Yes.
think that the distance learning is probably the best model to start with. I mean, I can't imagine,
Mhm.
there's no way you could start a class even 6 feet apart. I think that, I think that's.
Yeah, there's a lot of considerations that have to be made, and even if we could do 6 feet apart, every teacher's classroom isn't going to be the size of a multi-purpose room to
Right.
be able to do that.
Mhm.
So the reality of it is that most classrooms are 30 by 30 rooms, 900 square feet. So it's a difficult piece, and that's why it gives some of the various schedule models, and even those are not perfect. It's like, well, what works for a high school kid won't work for an elementary kid, and what works for one group might not work for another. So there's a lot of considerations that we're making, and really putting together work groups as we really try to come up with what's the best. I don't think we're gonna. I don't think we're professing to have like, oh, we're going to have the absolute perfect solution, but we will definitely work at ensuring that we put a lot of thought into the process, so that we can do as best as we can given the circumstances.
Well,
Plus, go ahead, Pat.
one thing I hadn't thought about until I saw that on there was the school buses. I mean, those school buses are packed all the time with kids, and you can't do that with, saying 6 feet apart and social distancing and all of that. So, that's another thing too. And we don't have enough buses and bus drivers.
So that's a perfect example. Based on the current criteria right now for social distancing and everything, it's a maximum of 12 kids on a bus.
Oh, geez.
That's all you can have on a bus, because you would have to skip every other seat, and you would have to skip every other row.
Yeah.
So this is a tough, this is a really tough.
And there's probably like what, 50 or 60 kids on a bus, each bus in the mornings. And
I'm not sure. I think as a district, there's over 1,000 students who participate in the busing program. And I think we have, like, let's just say 10 drivers. So yeah, there's 100, just divide. Yeah, there's, I don't know, Chrissy, your kid takes the bus. So how many kids are on that bus by the time it gets there?
Well, this year they actually had to run a smaller bus just to pick up the kids that are right on my little loop here. I'm up by Stonebray, and we have this one little loop that qualifies for a bus, and they send a little bus, and I mean, every day she's counting how many kids are getting on, because she only has just enough seats for that little bus, and that's just one little block, Round Hill, Pat. That's it.
Well, yeah, because there's 3.5 buses that go up to Stonebray.
Yeah.
And each bus is about 44 kids.
And we're the second round, because they actually go to like Fairview. They go up Fairview and drop them off, and then come back here and do our loop, and then take the kids back. So you're looking at probably at least 20 kids on that one. alone. And then when she was on the big bus, they would come up. I think they picked up the kids from the apartment complex down at the bottom City View. And then they would stop a couple spots around here and then do Round Hill and then go back up there. And that, I mean, yeah, but she was one of the last stops. And so everybody was like, push them back, you know, every seat's filled. So that's going to be really tough.
I just wonder how they can continue with distance learning, especially when parents start going back to work. See, I don't know how that's going to work either.
I didn't have this gray before all this started.
Thank God for hair dye. I've got a big streak right here.
I've already started, as you can see.
Well, and
I gave up a long time ago.
I'm gonna have to walk around with a cup like this, just holding it.
well, plus the cost factor for
Yes,
smaller classrooms. And
it's
are schools even, is there room?
No.
I wouldn't think so.
no. We have a multitude of situations and dilemmas that we kind of have to address and look at. But you know, it's a very inefficient kind of process for what the needs are. It costs more to it's just, so there's just a lot of factors that we're trying to take into place. And then again, we don't even know how many students are going to go. You know, it's just it's just
There's
a lot of
people that aren't
unknowns.
going to go back to school. They're going to
Yep.
keep their kids home.
We from our community surveys, we've already gotten messages that, you know, there's parents who are like, I'm not going to send my kids to school. And so so it's just, you know, that whole kind of notion of build it, they'll come. I don't think that that's true in this environment, but you know, again, we have to plan on everyone showing up. So it's going to really take some it's just going to take a lot of partnering with just everyone involved to understand that, like, this is a very complex situation and issue, and we meet on a daily basis, and it's just, you know, it's we're going to have to come up with something that, you know, again, it might not be the perfect, but we definitely want to ensure that we're utilizing those guidelines. We're continuing with the partnership with the county, and we make it as best of an experience as possible moving forward. So that's really the goal.
Well, I don't think we'll be losing students to other districts because they're all in the same boat. So,
you know, I would say, to be honest with you, Diane, that that is a concern, because some of our biggest competitors, like charter schools, they've been doing distance learning for the past 3-4 years. I mean, they have modeled their program on distance learning. They have modeled their program. You know, like, there's one huge charter organization in California that's what they do. They're a remote, like, a school that they take students, and it's all distance learning. So, you know, there's I forget what the saying, but innovation oftentimes comes out of necessity.
yeah.
And if there's ever been a necessary time, this is the time for us to innovate and say, okay, what's the approach? You know, I'm starting from moving away from an agrarian calendar system. You know, we're not sending our kids home in the summer to go tend the fields. You know, there's all kinds of things, but we've kind of been locked in our ways. But this is really forcing us to think about how we're going to do things differently. Even for us right now, we're having the conversations and discussions. We have a need for creating eligibility lists based on a meritocracy. You know, how do we bring in 50 people to test? Because that's one of the first tenets of a meritocracy is qualification via examination. So even us, it's making us rethink, how are we doing this, and how are we doing this in a way that again, we're being innovative. We're still keep up with the principles of being fair, being transparent. And again, I think at the end of the day, as difficult as change is, I do kind of welcome the opportunity to be a part of it. It's going to give me more gray, but that's kind of what was meant to happen anyways.
Well, I think you have to keep an open mind because there's no other choices. So,
Exactly.
Actually, learn from experience. Who's ever done it and has been successful? That's probably where you should probably start asking. There's nothing wrong with asking for expertise.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But who's gone through this experience before?
Charter, as he just said, charter schools.
There's a country that's a few months ahead of us.
It's like Germany, you know. So.
I mean, look at France. France opened schools,
Mhm,
and the next day they closed them.
mhm.
Yeah.
That happened a month and a half ago.
Right.
You know,
Yeah,
so
also-
I think if anything, we're really looking at kind of, again, how do we better flesh out a distance learning approach, and then look at how when through the guidance of the county do we begin to transition towards a hybrid type model, and then what does normal look like? What is going to become the new normal?
I think that makes the most sense to
Mhm.
do it like that, rather than having to close it, shut it all down week after school starts. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay. Any other comments, Fernando?
No, that's it. That concludes my comments.
Okay. Yeah, I think that does it.
I'll read the general public
Okay.
comments. The public comment section of the agenda provides an opportunity for public to address the Personnel Commission on any item of interest that is within the Personnel Commission's jurisdiction. Comments are welcome. However, please be advised that the Commission is prohibited by law from taking any action on an item brought by the speaker that is not currently listed on this agenda. Please use the raise your hand function online to request to speak. If you're attending by telephone, please press *9. You'll be unmuted online, or your area code and last 2 digits of your phone number will be called when it's time for you to speak. Please be aware that the Personnel Commission Rule 2.9a states that employees, employee organizations, and other interested parties will be provided a reasonable opportunity to present their views orally. Your comments should not exceed 3 minutes. Please begin by stating your name. And I have one speaker. So I'm going to go ahead and unmute Daisy. Hi, Daisy.
Hello everybody.
Daisy.
I hope
Hi.
you're all doing well and safe and healthy. And I just wanted to address the Personnel Commission right now, just to, wish you well, and also wondering how are we going to celebrate our retirees. We have members of AOD members that have been in our sites for many, many years. I mean, this is we always do. We always have a good group, but last year was, I don't remember the years altogether, but we have Jean Hakinson, we have Lori Tapia, Lori Robertson retired a little early on, and many others that I can't recollect at this minute, but I would like to know what is the plan, because we used to have a reception, and I know that everyone pitched in for that reception, but I wonder what is it that the Personnel Commission will do in order to honor the time that they have served our students and families in Hayward Unified. Thank you.
Thank you, Daisy. Is there anyone else?
No.
Okay. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Could I have a motion to accept that portion of the agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda as shown on the agenda.
Okay, second.
I second.
Okay, any discussion?
No, I think everything. Not
Seems
for me.
okay.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. No opposed. Okay, consent agenda has been accepted. Section I, information and discussion, classified staffing report.
This is just the basic, you can see that there hasn't been much movement going on with the shelter in place, but this was presented to the board on June 3rd.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I2, layoff report.
So wanted to give an update because it's always, again, we're using that term fluid, ever changing. This is just gives you a glimpse. We had 2 board actions. We had the action at the last meeting in April. I think it was April 26th, and then I think it was the May 6th board meeting date. So we had 2 different actions that were taken. There was a reorg in M&O, FMOT, that was the May 6th, the bulk of it. But you can see from our numbers that we had 50 employees in April who were affected. Of those 59 folks were on the 39 placed on the 39-month list. And then we had 63, we had 11 folks on the 63-month list. And just to kind of distinguish between the two, if someone is out the door, they would be considered placed on the 39-month list. If someone is demoted or has a reduction in hours, they're actually placed on a 63-month list. So they get more time, more rights to be made whole. And then you can see from that April action that 15 were rescinded. 6 folks were bumped as a result of people having more seniority in a particular classification. And then we had 9 people who were laid off. And so that was at that point in time. And the bulk of those were our security department, our DSOs and FCO staff, the facility control operators, as well as the district security officers. And so then moving to our May action, there were 15 employees that were affected. 2 were placed on the 39-month list. And then I think we had 13 on the 63-month. So there was a lot of bumping that occurred there. There was more that occurred. There are more folks who were demoted into previous classifications. So not necessarily bumping, but they had rights to a previous classification. That they had seniority or owned permanency rights in, and then we had 6 people who were bumped, and then we had 2 folks who were laid off. And then as of June, you kind of start pulling everything together. We were able to lower the amount of employees affected by the board action because a grant came in. That removed, I want to say 12 people, 13 people. It was for our coordination of services team classification, which is a classification that AOD represents. So there was a grant that the Christy Guerin, the Director of Student and Family of Services, was able to procure and keep going. So that automatically will allow us to rescind those notices, so less folks are impacted with that. And then you can see we have just still from the cumulative, 8 people are on the 39-month list. So you can see that went from 11 to 8. And then we have 26 people that are on the 63-month list because there was some either reduction in hours or there was them going back to a lower classification. We were able to rescind the 15. And then there was some bumping that happened there. And then our layoff out the door was 8 individuals. So I think I captured that. I don't know if Debbie, I think Debbie's on the meeting. Debbie, I don't know if you have any other insight or if I missed anything.
I think that covers it.
Okay, thank you. She trained me.
So the numbers listed under June are people coming out of the numbers listed in April?
The numbers in June is the cumulative of April and May. Yes.
Okay.
Because we have just ever-changing conditions,
Right.
you know, and then one person's choice to maybe reduce in place means that they're not going to bump someone else at another site. So yeah, it's their choice really drives what the finality is. And so we were still getting those letters as of, by the last time we met was in May, we were still getting those letters from folks. And so this is kind of that, this is with all of their information in, this is with their selection letters being made. And this is also taken into consideration the grant awarding for the cost classification employees. So yeah, this is kind of our latest information and probably won't change too much from here.
That's what I was going to ask, if it could change before the end of the month. So this is probably it.
The only thing that could potentially change this would be if maybe a current employee may be retired or decide that, like, you know what, I'm done, and then maybe someone from the 63-month list gets placed back into their previous classification, and then that number goes down one. So, but it's a very little room here now to really shift and move.
I'm very thankful that there's only 8 people being laid off.
You know, it's always difficult to lose folks and to go through the process. But yeah, I think all things considered, and I really think it speaks to, you know, working together, you know, the going after grants, the really just trying to say, how do we continue to fund these necessary programs that really help our families, our students, and allow us to kind of target those resources. So yeah, I'm with you. I agree with that. I just know that it's always difficult, you know, and I know it is for the commission, you guys having, you know, been here in Hayward, it's always difficult, but yes, to have 8 is kind of like, okay, you know, one is it's never good enough. But our goal is to keep it as low as possible.
No, I just expected it to be much higher, so I never want to see anybody laid off. But you know, I'm glad that it's as small as it is. So
Now, were most of those layoffs from the security department?
Yeah, the bulk of those were from the security department. So you know, our DSOs or FCOs. I think we also had a CDA. I think it's a CDA, child development assistant. But what we were able to do is we were able to work with the individuals who were impacted by that, and they were able to assess for para. We were able to kind of say, if you're interested in being a para, because the rules do allow us to do that. Like, we can work with employees, and as long as they meet minimum qualifications and are able to pass the assessment, the examination component, we can work with either, you know, the commission rules allow it, and then working through our labor partners, we want to place as many people as possible into existing vacancies if they're qualified for the work.
Okay.
all right, any more discussion or questions?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so
I have a hand raised.
okay.
Okay,
Go ahead.
Daisy.
Thank you. Fernando, you just mentioned that you were able to do get employment for one CNA. Can you do the same thing for that position of the dispatcher or Miss Carol, that used to be part of the team that you dismantled, the department that you dismantled, and well, not you, but you know, business did. Not you. I'm sorry. It's nothing against you, Fernando.
Yeah.
But they dismantled that department, and now they're outsourcing some stuff. Yes, they are outsourcing, and you know, now we have Carol there that worked a number of years. She didn't have any other position, but she did a lot of clerical work. Could she be allowed to be part of this, something that they did for the CNA? Can we work something out? I mean, she's not my member, but she's even though the numbers don't seem to be, you know, so concerning to some of you, one person is already a big concern. Somebody that is not gonna have a job very soon, and then we have the economy is just so bad right now. Can we do something like that for that particular person within the meritocracy?
We can definitely explore the possibilities that exist. Typically, when we do those in partnership with the labor partners. So the case that I made was an SEIU with an SEIU, but we can definitely look into it. Absolutely, yeah. I mean, there are rules that allow us to look at that. Again, it's the goal of the Personnel Commission to keep as many people employed as possible, and to limit the amount of people who are out the door. So I will definitely explore it, Daisy.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions about the layoff? Okay, we'll
Hold
go.
on, Daisy raised her hand again. Let me just make sure.
Okay.
Daisy, did you have something else to say?
Actually, I was just clicking there. No,
Okay.
not more.
Okay.
I will talk to
All right.
Fernando about this. It's just he brought that up, and I just have this amazing idea. We can do something for Carol, hopefully. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we'll go to section J, action. J1, ratification of attendance clerk eligibility list. Could I have a motion that we accept this item?
I move to accept the attendance clerk eligibility list.
Okay, second.
I second.
Okay, any discussion?
So this is good for another, until the end of November. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. We vote.
Okay, yeah. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? None. Okay. J2, approval of the 2020-2021 Personnel Commission calendar revisions.
I move to.
Okay. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm sorry. I move,
I'm jumping the gun.
Motion to move.
I move to approve the 2020-2021 Personnel Commission.
I second.
Okay, now we can talk.
Okay, so the last time we brought this forward or I think that it was in May, I had mentioned that the Board of Education calendar had not been approved yet. So now that that has been approved, there were only 2 conflicts. So I am proposing that we change the August meeting to the second Wednesday of August. And I think that'll work because we don't typically have a July meeting. So moving it up a little bit would probably be beneficial. And then the November meeting, I kind of went over this a little bit because November is a very short month. We have Veterans Day, we have Thanksgiving. So I was proposing just to move it up a day to a Tuesday, just because there really isn't any other days to do it in November.
Okay. Well, I think it looks fine with me. Any discussion on that?
Since I can't really travel anywhere, I'm not going to be going anywhere. So.
Okay.
Anywhere you go, they'll have Zoom too.
Yeah.
That's right.
All those in favor of accepting the calendar with the revisions, say aye.
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 No opposed. It's passed. Okay. We will go to J3. Approve the request to designate existing eligibility list for Technology Support Specialist 2 as most appropriate list for Technology Support Specialist 1. Could I have a motion? We accept this item?
I move to accept the, to designate the existing eligibility list for Technology Support Specialist 2 as most appropriate list for Technology Support Specialist 1.
Okay. I have a second?
I second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any discussion?
No, it makes sense.
Yeah.
What is
Yeah,
it?
I mean, this just helps us with recruitment wise, and these are the same folks who would be applying anyways. So this is really helpful in that process.
What does it do to salary? Are they listed at a Tech 2 for their salary, or?
No, we would just, what this does is this, if they're interested, we do ask them if they're interested in applying for the TSS1 position, that it's lower, but this oftentimes allows folks to get their foot in the door.
Okay.
So that they do, and this just gives us that flexibility. It's kind of like when we use an office manager list to hire an office specialist. They'll come in at that office specialist, but we know that we're getting a set of skills that since the family, the job family is such, the a TSS2 can do everything that a TSS1 can do. So yeah, it just gives us, again, it gives us, and it also gives the applicants the opportunity to get into the district based on their eligibility for a higher position.
Okay. Any other discussion?
No.
Okay. All those in favor of accepting this agenda item, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Okay, moving on to J4, proposed approval of proposed Personnel Commission logo, which is on the back page of your agenda.
So back in, I believe it was
I have to-
Oh, I'm sorry. I did it again.
It's okay, I do it too. Could I have a motion that we accept this agenda item?
Yeah, I move to accept this agenda item for the proposed Personnel Commission logo.
Second?
I second.
Okay. Discussion?
Are we
Okay, now it's my turn.
we're choosing between from these 6, is that, or are we just saying, yeah, we like them and we're gonna talk a little bit more? I mean, at this point, what are we here to choose one today?
If you have an opinion, you can definitely let us know which one you like the best. Again, I was just saying that it was approved by the Personnel Commission back in January, and the cost was $400 for us to get the new logos here. And polling staff, actually we received a lot more than just this. And polling staff, we narrowed it down to these 6. And our first and second place options were number 2 and number 6 here. We did like the round logo because it does coordinate well with the district logo. And the purpose of the rebranding for the Personnel Commission is to definitely coordinate with the rebranding of HUSD. So we did like number 2 and 6, but we are open to any suggestions from the commission.
So the only difference between the 2 is just the colors are switched, isn't it? That's all?
And I think there's yeah, number 6 has some additional stars, and the star is a little bit
Oh, I see.
more fluid. Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
More
that stars
angular.
and 2 doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and also the way the 2 bodies,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
one of them is carried out over the person on number 2, and 6, they're just side by side.
Yeah.
I
Looks like they're
number 6.
high-fiving.
Yeah,
like
I like number 6 myself.
only
But
because it kind of makes, it's easy, it actually makes a star. When you put the 2 together, it makes a star. They look more equal, they look like partners.
mhm.
I like the extra stars too. I think that's kind of nice. And I do like the round. I think that would have been, I would have said 4 or 6, but 2 is nice too. I just
Kind of looks like they're doing high five, so to me.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with 6, either 2 or 6, I'm fine, but yeah, the stars are kind of nice. So
I kind of like number 6 myself. That's when I saw it. That was the first one that I saw that I
that was
liked.
my first choice then.
Great.
Do you-
Okay.
Do you need a motion for us to approve one, or?
Yes, please.
okay, so all those in favor of selecting number 6 as our new logo, say aye.
I
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Okay. We will now close the meeting and go into
Okay.
closed session, but I would like to close the meeting in honor of Mary Glenn, former Personnel Commission. If anybody wants to see her obituary, I cut it out, but I'd like it adjourned in her name.
Okay. Before we adjourn to closed session, I'm just going to read really quick the note here.
Okay.
This section of the Personnel Commission agenda provides the opportunity for comments from members of the general public on items which will be presented in closed session. If anyone from the general public has a comment on any of the items that will be discussed prior to the Commission's adjournment to closed session, please let us know at this time. After all the comments have been received, the Commission will immediately adjourn to closed session for deliberation and action, if any. If the Commission takes action in closed session, the action will be reported out in open session when the Commission reconvenes before adjournment of this meeting. However, there's nothing on the closed session agenda that will require an action. So I don't think that there's any need to reconvene in open session. So if anyone has any comments, please let us know now. Otherwise, Diane, you can call the meeting closed.
Okay,
And I have no comments.
okay. Then I close our public meeting to close session.
Okay.
So we need to
Thank you.
log out and
Log
go
out.
back
Yeah.
in.
I'm going to end this and then you'll go to your email for the closed session.
Okay,
Okay, bye.
bye.